What's going on, guys? It's ActusXD here. Today I want to show you some tips and tricks and also just a demonstration about how to hopefully speed up your Garden of Genesis runs. So let's just start the video and I'll talk as we run through certain things. Now, the number one thing I want to point out here is that I am not super geared. In this video I'm wearing light mage faction gear, which is 520 gear score. I'm wearing a crap staff that someone in the company gave me. I have no trophies or nothing like that now. Our tank is really geared and the other players are probably medium geared. This isn't going to be like a world record setting run. It's just the way we do the run. You should be able to implement and take some time off how long you're spending in the dungeon. If you are currently not doing your Genesis runs or even your Lazarus runs because you don't want to pay to get into a dungeon, you think that's ridiculous, then I would really encourage you to rethink that perspective. You will get 288 coins from every boss you defeat, and if you're lucky you'll get some stuff that you can sell on the trading post. Even if it's just for a small amount of gold, then you'll recoup some of the costs you lose on entry. And the other thing is as well that you also get a timeless shard at the end, and if you get even a half decent one, by selling that you will have recouped the entire cost of the entry into your dungeon. There's a whole lot of reasons why you would think that you don't want to pay to get into an expedition in the first place, but in my experience it is absolutely worth it, especially if you've got even 2 or 3 friends that you can form as a group to know that you'll be able to make the dungeon or the expedition easy. I'll try to say expedition, I'm going to suck at it though, but you know, whatever. To make the expedition as easy as possible, you want to do a number of things. Number one, these are very simple, I'm not going to take too long doing them. Everyone wants to have ancient earth coatings, which you can buy on the trading post for not much gold at all. You can buy honing stones. The tier 5 ones are quite expensive, but you only lose 1% every tier you go down with weapon damage, so just drop down to a tier that you think is affordable. You want to make sure that you've got coatings on both your weapons. You've stat food going as well, depending on what role you're playing. If you can afford it and they're not that expensive, at least get the minor trophies, and if you can, then upgrade them to the basic trophies for ancient earth damage. It's going to make a massive difference between coatings on your weapons as well as the trophies. You're getting something like, depending on how many trophies you've got, you can get up to about 40% extra damage. And then if you can, go to the trading post and find a weapon that has extra damage to ancient earth on it. All of a sudden your damage is going to go up by like 50 to 60% from really doing nothing. We time our runs from when we run through the first door, the first entrance, and so from that point until the end of this dungeon I think takes about 16 minutes, and you'll see if you pay attention to what our tank's doing and what we're doing that we basically run through groups of mobs. We get to a kill point, we kill everything there, and then we move on. You don't ever really need to kill a hive, you just run past them and they stop sending fiends after you. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, 2 easy ways to increase your damage. If you are a class that is really going to only use one weapon type in this expedition, so like me, I'm only going to use my fire staff, it is extremely beneficial if you go and get a void gauntlet, even a crap one, and you level it up so that you can at least get oblivion, and you just use oblivion on cooldown standing on your melee DPS group. That is going to give your entire group 20% extra damage. It stacks up to 3 times I think, and then you just run on. If you have one archer left over, which you sometimes do in that last corridor, stop there before you go and do the tree and run in and start the tree event. Make sure that your tank is tanking the mobs away from the tree because they do cleave damage and they'll just be hitting the tree inherently. And if you are like me, a light armor wearer, don't be standing near the tree because when the mobs first spawn they run at the tree and the soldiers can easily one-tap you. So you want to make sure that you're standing away from the tree, you're killing the mobs away from the tree. This is probably one of the most challenging points of the dungeon, just because the archers can be a real pain. You want your tank to try and pull the soldiers onto the archers so that you can cleave them all down as fast as possible, whilst paying attention to make sure there's not fiends or an old soldier wailing on the tree at the time. If anyone goes down, they'll probably be in the melee group. It'll be from several soldiers having done their big stomp at one time. Get your tank to pull the mobs away and someone run in and res, but there's, you know, you just want to finish these mobs up and someone grabs the tree. Doesn't really matter too much about who's carrying it at this point, and you'll see I'm doing a very good job, an excellent job you might say, of just using the flamethrower all the time. I mean really, it's truly miraculous. Just I'm pressing one button and standing still forever. You've got to credit me on how totally skilled I am.
Hello mate, how are you? Nice to see you. Yeah, no, I'm well. Yeah, really good, thanks.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. I was just having a chat with my biggest fan. You know, you could be my biggest fan if you just subscribed. The button's down below. Don't forget to like the video and leave a comment. Thank you. Thank you. Just watch that back and I'm like legitimately sweaty and crying at how cringy it is, but I'm leaving it in. If you manage to not exit the video at that point, then please subscribe. You're obviously meant to be here. Christ almighty. Come down these steps and hug the tree on the right. You don't have to aggro those mobs on the left or the hive at all. Just stick close to the tree and run around. You can avoid the hive. If you do aggro the hive, just keep running. As I say, you don't need to worry about killing the hive itself. If you get far enough away, you just have to kill the fiends. It's not going to keep sending more after you. We've got the Oblivion down, and we use heavy attacks to burst through his shield, which you can see there, and then he dies almost instantly, I think, when we start getting going. Another thing that you might want to note, especially if you're the tank, a way that you can easily increase the damage that your group is doing is by using the Armor Breaker skill with the Lasting Trauma perk. I think it's the last in the tree under the Armor Breaker skill. It's going to increase the damage that the mob takes by an extra 20%. So now we're starting to see how much all of our extra damage is stacking up when we look at Oblivion. We look at our coatings, our trophies, Armor Breaker. All of a sudden your damage is going to be, you know, nearly double what you would have otherwise been doing, and it gets ridiculous how quickly you can kill some of this stuff. You don't need to stop and kill this shaman here, you just keep running past. Ideally you want a heavy armor wearer or your tank to be running first, to be grabbing the aggro. You can see here our tank is wearing Void Bent, so you know it's good gear. Keep running through. You've got your tank or a heavy armor wearer running first. You want to run right through. You can either stop on the left just there and everyone LOSs all those mobs around the corner, or you keep running around the corner here and you all line of sight the mobs so that they all clump up and you burst them down very quickly. Try and focus the archers, as they're going to be the ones that do a lot of damage, and if, like you just see here, if you're a light armor wearer, stay the hell away from the soldiers. Burst them down. Again, that's another demonstration of aggroing a heap of mobs to one point and then killing them all at that point. Now this here is the most difficult point of the dungeon. Expedition. Difficult point of the expedition. What you want to be doing is one-phasing this boss. Always have your regular food buff ticking, which is just giving you more health. I should have said that before. You also perhaps want to think about, or you don't want to think about, you also want to have light tinctures on your hot bar, your hot potion bar, I don't know what it's called or what this is, to be able to survive the burst phase as you're trying to avoid the second phase, or avoid wiping, actually. We're all just getting as much damage onto the boss as we possibly can, standing on the opposite side, and be getting as much damage on him as you possibly can. You can see here that he is getting absolutely shredded by our group. Everyone stays in during this phase, and when he goes into his shield phase, where you would ordinarily do heavy attacks to break his shield, you want to do light attacks to get as much damage on him as possible. He goes into this leaping phase, and he does about 7 leaps, I think. You can do, I'm doing a terrible job of demonstrating what to do here, but you can be doing damage on to the boss when he's underground and just shooting it where his nameplate is. You want your entire group to clump in the middle so you know which way he's going to jump. You just dodge at the time that he sort of leaps through the air. As I say, I do a terrible job of demonstrating what's going on here. And then this phase where I've just died handily, so you can't necessarily see exactly what's going on, but this is the phase where all the mobs on the outside have spawned because we weren't there killing them as we ran around, and they all rush in. You need to do as much damage as possible here before his shield goes up again and you won't kill him in time. Basically, you save all your armor breaker, you make sure you've got Oblivion, you make sure you've got AoE for the other mobs around. When he's coming out, when the walls come down, your tank puts the boss back in the center of the room. Make sure that you've used a blight tincture so that you're not blighted and taking a ridiculous amount of damage, and everyone just focuses on the boss as much damage as you possibly can do. Make sure you've got your biggest damage cooldowns at this point. Everyone just is there shredding the boss as hard as you possibly can. If someone goes down, do not try and resurrect them. It's going to be too late. You just need to get as much damage as you possibly can on the boss. If you're a light armor user, you want to be standing further away. You can see that I died here, and it's because I was right in close. I got hit by some of the mobs running in. I think I might have got hit by something that the boss did. I just took a ridiculous amount of damage. Obviously, if you are a melee DPS you need to be in there. If you're ranged, then be standing close so that you're not drawing the aggro of the other mobs away from the tank and the cluster, but don't be standing in so close that you're going to get hit by 48 attacks instantly and get one dig like I did. Run to the chest up here. You can see I've just realised to put black tinctures on my bar because I'm a moron. I should say this is probably only about the 6th or 7th time that I'd run Genesis when I filmed this one. The next bit, everyone loots the chest and then runs into this room. What happens is whoever has the sapling will light the fire. And then the tank runs through the vine there. Just the tank alone will run and get the mobs in that room up there. And then run back to the urn, whatever it is on the ground here. One of your ranged DPS shoots and gets, what's his name, Cotmos or something, from the room where you just killed the boss at the same time, and then you AoE them all together in one big clump. It's going to save you a serious amount of time here. Just burn everything down. It's very easy. You can all stand clumped in together and just destroy everything at once. Make sure someone's picked up the flame. Not your tank, not your healer, but it can be anyone else. Preferably your lowest DPS, which would have been me in this instance, but I didn't do it because I'm pathetic. And then you all just run up to the next vine and wait patiently for Flame Man to catch up, like the Olympic torch being carried through the Amazon jungle. I don't know, I've got nothing. Again, we just run straight forward, ignoring this soldier for the time being. We're just continuing to run, hugging the right steps to avoid that hive there. Unless you're Greg Sag, you can see here he just AFK auto runs into the hive and aggroes it for us, which is very handy. What you can do is continue on, and if you want to avoid this entire thing, but it can cause some hinky issues, especially if you've aggroed the hive down below. So we stop, come around the corner, and clump everything together and kill on top of the archer there, making sure to stay out of the soldier's AoE. Once you've done that, continue running around on the right-hand side, jumping off the edge here. Again, what we're going to do is clump everything up on this mini-boss and burst it all down. Like I've said many times, if you're a light army user, do not be in the center there. There are a number of soldiers and you will get massive damaged. Because I use flamethrower, I do stupidly run in and get myself killed very often. But, you know, be better than me. It's not hard, you can do it. Basically focusing all our damage on the mini-boss. When his shield is up, we want to be doing heavy attacks to burst the shield down as much as we can. Standing in the Oblivion where we can and just bursting the mob down. And then we just continue running straight forward and getting the chest up ahead. One thing that I forgot to mention is that the person who's carrying the flame, whilst the tank and the other DPS have aggroed the mini-boss, then you want to make sure that the person carrying the flame burns the vine, runs down, lights the urn, and then runs back. Once you're done, you run forward, get this chest, and then jump off the edge here. Everyone except the tank runs to the left to the archer, and the tank runs over to the right and grabs the soldier mini-boss guy and the other few adds, and then you run them together. What your tank wants to be doing is making sure to stand on top of the archer wherever he jumps and be killing them both as quickly as you can at the same time, because the archer's going to be leaping around like a pure madman. You want to move the soldier on top and then you just kill them as quickly as you possibly can. Basically, we're just doing as much damage here as we can to these things, killing them as quick as we can, clumped on top of each other, not too much to say. Don't forget to run back the way you've come to grab that chest. Res your friend or your tank if they've gone down, and you'll see at the chest that there's a guy to the left you don't have to kill, so just stick a little bit to the right when you're looting the chest and grab your free legendary or blight seeds or one tier 3 carnelian, whatever it is that you happen to get. Running now to the final boss room, you just run. Yep, this is an exciting part. Same as ever, you want to make sure that you're standing on the opposite side of the boss to your tank. You just get one dig there because you're an idiot. I wish I could cut that out. You'll see that it's not the most embarrassing thing I do on this fight. Stand on the opposite side of the boss to your tank. Dodge those orange circles that are going around. I don't think if you're looking at speed clearing, you need too much of instruction about what this boss does. But you're probably getting an idea here that we're not all insane players. We're not crazy gear, you know. This isn't the top 1% that's able to clear these dungeons in this speed. Anyone is able to do it. You just need some small communication, which you can do through the in-game voice chat, and some of those free damage buffs that you get. The player that's the furthest away from the boss will get poison on them. You want to make sure that player runs to a corner or an edge of the room to drop the poison. And if there's already boulders that have landed, make sure that your poison player isn't putting the poison anywhere near one of the boulders that you intend to use to hide behind. That's basically the extent of this fight, other than avoiding the boulders when they come down. Little green circle appears around you, and dodging the underground chasing mechanic, which is basically, you know, fairly similar to the second boss. My very exciting flamethrower gameplay coming to the fore here. No, that's the poison that I was talking about, that big green line going out to Napkin. He just runs it out over to the entrance, away from the boulders, which are about directly behind where I'm standing right at this very moment. That's a boulder right there. Basically the exact same animation as the poison, but there's no line between the player and the poison. And then you just rinse, repeating, killing this boss is very easy, despite the fact that 19 of us have died 47 times. Kill the ads when they spawn. They've got like no health whatsoever. You can again do damage to the boss while she's underground, shooting at her, as you can see that I'm expertly doing here. She targets a player, not a location, with that underground charge. So if you're the targeted player, just make sure you're paying attention and diving at the moment she's about to pop up. At this point, everyone needs to LOS behind a boulder. When the whole ground goes that weird grey, greeny colour, and then you die and get carried by your team like you otherwise have the rest of the dungeon. Unfortunately, it was our fastest dungeon clear that evening when I was recording footage, and so I'm using that one, but you didn't miss much. It was me just getting one degged at the end because I'm an idiot at the start of the fight and used my res. They just finished the boss off and that's it. I'll let this play out. I don't want to speed up any bits of it so you guys know exactly what the timer is. We'll get to the end and, you know, that's how you can see it's not the cleanest run that anyone's ever done. It's certainly not the fastest, but in my experience, a lot of pug gen runs do a lot of unnecessary things and don't fight as many mobs as they're capable of, which winds up taking significantly more time. You know, you could be looking at easily doubling the amount of time you're spending in gen when you just follow some of these simple tips in here, and that will get you all the way through. So, if you've got to the end of this Genesis and you're as alive as my character, which is 3 times deceased, then thank you very much for sticking it out. I've been ActusXD. You've been lovely. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Light Seeds. Legendary. Awesome. I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you. I love you. And remember,